Probably, yeah.
Well, they might be glad. Get rid of her, they may say.
Losing a sister, like.
We were, making really suggestions to Sharon on how the story could carry on, but she didn't listen to any of them and wrote something way better.
Oh, okay. So
wow.
there's that bigger thing, but then there's other...
There's a lot of stuff to come. And also because it's Sharon's story this time, so she can be as playful as she wants,
It's gonna be all right. Are we sure? Ready?
What was it like coming back for season 2 now that there is so much expectation and buzz around the series, which there wasn't before because it just appeared out of nowhere?
Yeah, well, it's lovely coming back knowing that people want more. That's why we're back, because it did so well and audiences were sort of asking for more, which is really nice. So it's a great way to go into a show feeling confident that, we got it right. They loved it. Sharon wrote brilliant scripts for series 2, so just excited, really.
It's really unusual as well to come back for a second season of something where everybody's going, oh, what is going to happen to you? And it's such a lovely feeling, so that sort of jet propels you into it. So I think we just felt really lucky. Yeah.
No, I think we had great confidence in that there was an appetite for a season 2. We wrapped season 1 thinking that we were done as well. Now we wished and we hoped and we were, making really suggestions to Sharon on how the story could carry on, but she didn't listen to any of them and wrote something way better. So we were really excited to be back together. We love working together, so it's like a really fun place to go to work and with people you love. So I think we were confident in that. Also, there was none of that kind of figuring out what the tone of the show was, will the audiences go with us, because morally they're, it's quite corrupt. They're, trying to kill a man every week. And so this time round, we knew what the show was, so there was none of that kind of figuring out the characters. It was like meeting an old friend again.
And season 2 does have a different feel, so we don't have the attempted kill of the week. Characters have gone, new characters have come in. Did it feel interesting and fresh for you guys as well because of that?
Yeah, I think so. It's a very different energy to season 2. They're still up to no good, but this year they're being hunted. There's 2 cops who are after them. Secrets are being revealed, and I think the show is all about secrets, season 2. People keeping them being revealed. But I think, and then I added new characters, like having Fiona Shaw join us was an absolute joy and privilege.
Yeah, it actually felt sort of more layered.
Yeah.
It's a more sort of convoluted, complex storyline. And like you said, there's new characters which are really brilliant, that really spice things up. But I think it all unfolds in a really surprising and shocking way, which I think audiences are not going to be necessarily prepared for, but I think they're going to really like.
Yeah, there's some lovely twists and turns. And also because it's Sharon's story this time, so she can be as playful as she wants, she's not following another version of the story from before, so she gets to get her tail feathers going, as a writer. It's brilliant.
The first series felt like a completion. It felt very final. So why did you decide to bring it back? What was the appeal of that?
Apple really wanted us to
people
do
wanted
some more.
The audience,
and the audience, I think it was the reaction to it, because obviously you really hope that what you make reaches an audience and people watch, but the response was so amazing, and people really connected with the sisters, not just the storyline and the thriller and the prick and the villain. They really connected with those women and Ireland, and so it felt really hard to say goodbye. And I had a sort of germ of an idea, and then that we built on that, and then we were like, oh, actually there is a really clearly obvious story here of just the very basic of it is what happens after something as terrible as that happens to a really good person and her family, like what the fallout is. So even without the other much bigger story, I don't know how much you've seen.
2.
Oh, okay. So
wow.
there's that bigger thing, but then there's
there's
other.
There's a lot of stuff to come.
Well, let's talk about what happens at the end of episode 2. Obviously, a huge spoiler. I won't put this until after it's gone out.
Okay.
It's a gut punch. I
Yeah.
was really quite angry with you.
I know, my daughter
How do you
as
think
well.
people will respond?
That's a very
I
good
think,
question.
do you know what? I've got no idea. But I feel like, yes, it's a massive gut punch. But the story propels it so much after that you kind of, it's not that you leave it behind, it's just that there's so much going on and the sisters are, you know, having to protect Blanid, look after themselves, because I guess by the time you get to 2, you realise that the cops are really moving in on them as well. So I think all the story kind of motivates other story, and so I'm hoping that people will get so caught up in that they won't be angry for too long.
But I think we're going to put those 2 episodes out on the one night, and exactly that, people will be absolutely, gut wrenched. But what I'm hoping and what we trust is that people love the series, love Sharon's writing, love the sisters, and realise that anger is a good response to take somebody away that you love, and that then becomes part of the story, because that's part of real life.
And it's important to to show that trauma is continuing. You know, when you've been in a relationship like that, it's not when you've been in when you've dealt with that kind of abuse, it's not something that you just sort of pick yourself up and walk away from.
Yeah, what's the aftermath of that? And then you go, this is episode 2. What on earth can the next 6 episodes be about? So it's so I think I hope people will come back. I think
Well, they will, yeah.
And Fiona Shaw has joined the cast as Roger's sister Angelica. She is quite the character. She tends to suck the life out of the room. She's deceptively dominant as a character. You look at her, she's quite unassuming. You wouldn't think so.
Yes.
What does she bring to the show? How does she impact the sisters? Because she's already ruffling feathers from the word go.
Oh, she gets under the skin of all of them.
She is,
It's
and
such
Grace has obviously, in the time off screen, developed this relationship with her where she steered me through my grief and all those things. So it becomes a very weird kind of codependent relationship. And then Grace finds love and she doesn't need her anymore. So she's profoundly offended, so she's coming at us with that you owe me sort of energy, isn't she?
And she observes and understands all the characters, all the sisters very well, doesn't she? Like very quickly. She kind of gets a measure of them and knows how to just get in under their skin and really start to mess with them. It's a brilliant character. She's just
brilliant. And there's one, I can't remember, is it Bibi or Eva that looks at her and says, grief thief? Grief thief. Which is just her character, just think.
Well, she really threatens everything, She knows way too much. She's a real, curtain twitcher. But she's also quite dangerous, She gets in their lives. She threatens Bibi's marriage, her really strong marriage. But really, she just kind of wants to be one of them,
Yeah, you feel that longing from her. She seems incredibly lonely.
Really lonely.
Which is sad as well. What are you most excited for viewers to see this season? Or is there a particular scene or development that you particularly enjoyed?
I'm dying for them to see Fiona Shaw because it was just so enjoyable working with her. She's such a playful actor and just like an absolute perfectionist, and professionally it was a highlight. I am looking forward to, there's many scenes. There's one in particular, a karaoke scene that was my favourite moment on set this year, and watching it, I haven't seen any of it actually, I'm going to wait week to week. But in ADR, I was as moved as I was making it.
And big spoiler, which I obviously won't print until after the episodes have gone out. At the end of episode 2, we lose Grace, which is a gut punch. Did you know that was coming, and what was your reaction when you learned that?
We knew because she was booked in another job, so we knew we only had her for a short amount of time. I didn't know how it was going to happen until we got the first 2 scripts. And I was absolutely shocked but I do think it's a great springboard for where the story goes.
And how do you think viewers will feel at the end of the series when they've seen, everything is said and done, they've seen the lay of the land? What do you think their response will be?
I hope they're highly entertained and moved. I do think it's a bit more of an emotional show this year, probably because, you know, grief is such a massive theme in it. And they all go on a much more emotional journey, I think.
Yeah. I knew well ahead. I just think it's brilliant. It's a brilliant conceit. It just, what it did was, because there was so much anticipation around what would happen to Grace, where would Grace go? And Sharon's thrown a massive grenade into it. And so it takes that out of the story now. So now anything can happen. And it's very liberating, I think.
Do you think viewers are going to be angry about that twist? Because I was like, no.
Probably, yeah.
Well, they might be glad. Get rid of her, they may say.
Losing a sister, like, it's not, I think they will. I think they'll be really emotional and upset about it, you know, but it's like, I think every great show, it tends to happen. They lose somebody really important, really vital, and then it does work well for the show, but of course there's a great loss that comes
But
with
she's
it.
still there, you know, the spirit of Grace. That's the thing about Grace, and I found this out watching the first series. I used to feel so, like, away from the other sisters in season 1, but then when I watched it, they talked so much about Grace that she was always with them. And I think it's happened again in season 2, even though I'm not physically with you guys, they're always talking about her. So it's,
You're there.
she's there, right?
And the third season, have there been conversations? Is that something you would like to do?
I don't know, actually. We've been
was told.
talking about it a lot today, especially. But, you know, again, like the second season, it would have to be a really great idea, you know, and
But this series has an ending, so we don't leave it as a cliffhanger.
No, there's no...
No, yeah, every pun intended. But it does feel satisfying in the same way that the first series felt complete.
Yes, yeah.
It's so frustrating when you're left literally with hanging on for the next. So this one is complete.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I love hanging out with those girls, and I love making the show, and you know, it's hard to leave that behind. So I'm just keeping my brain open for ideas.